Wild AI ship at auction, healed instantly when a human cleaner approached. Inside, the hall was bright and shiny. People from many planets had come, some tall and thin, some short and round, some with colors on their skin that humans could barely describe. Everyone was excited. Today, ships of every kind were being auctioned, and the most famous of all was floating in the center, a ship called Virlia. Virlia was different from the other ships. Its hull was smooth and shiny, silver with faint lines that glowed faintly blue. But it was also known as a wild AI ship. Its onboard intelligence was famous and feared. People said it would refuse orders, crash programs, and even turn off its own systems just because it did not like the operator. Many had tried to control Virlia, but it always resisted. For some, this was exciting. For others, it was frightening. The auction hall itself was huge. Glass panels floated in zero gravity, showing every angle of the ships. The floor was polished and reflective, and lights from the ceiling moved like tiny stars. The auctioneer, a tall humanoid with a golden voice, stood at the podium, ready to start the event. Around him were dozens of bidders, wealthy collectors, scientists, and space enthusiasts, all ready to place enormous bids for a chance to own Virlia. Among all this excitement, a young human girl quietly walked into the hall. Her name was Isla, and she was one of the station's cleaners. She was small and unassuming, wearing a plain gray uniform, carrying a soft cloth and a small cleaning tool. Isla was calm, quiet, and careful. Unlike the excited bidders, she did not come to compete or to impress anyone. She was here to clean the hall before the auction began. Isla moved slowly among the floating ships. She polished handrails, wiped the glass panels, and dusted small corners that no one paid attention to. Her movements were careful and gentle, almost like she was dancing. She never hurried. She cleaned the floor and then paused to adjust a floating display panel. Then her eyes fell on Virlia. The ship seemed alive even while floating silently. Its silver hull shimmered in the light, and faint lines of blue light ran across its surface. Small panels opened and closed randomly, and the soft hum of its system sounded irregular, almost nervous. Some of the bidders had tried to activate it already, tapping screens and pressing controls, but Virlia ignored them. Lights flickered, warning signs blinked, and a few small sparks flew from minor systems. People whispered nervously. Isla paused near the ship, but she did not touch any controls. She only bent down to clean the small gap near the hull, carefully wiping dust away. She did not expect anything to happen. She was just doing her job. But then something strange and magical occurred. Virlia's lights started to stabilize. The flickering stopped, and the hum of its systems became smooth, calm, and confident. Panels opened gently as if welcoming her presence. The small blue lines on the hull glowed brighter, not aggressively but softly like the ship was breathing. A gasp ran through the crowd. Bidders stepped back. Scientists whispered to each other. The auctioneer froze mid-sentence. No one had expected this. Everyone had assumed that only the richest or smartest bidder could make Virlia respond. Yet the small human cleaner, just doing her work quietly, had somehow awakened the wild ship. Isla stepped back slightly, unsure what had just happened. The ship had reacted not to commands, not to wealth, not to skill, but to her presence. Her hand still held the cloth, and she moved it slowly as she dusted. Virlia's lights pulsed gently in response, almost like it was communicating with her without words. The auctioneer cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "it appears Virlia has reacted in a way we have never seen before." He paused, scanning the crowd. "Perhaps it prefers human interaction," the crowd murmured. Some laughed nervously, others whispered, shocked. One bidder, a tall alien with silver skin, frowned. "Impossible," he said. "It should respond to technical input, not cleaning." But Virlia continued to shine softly, its systems calm and alive. Its AI seemed curious, attentive, and friendly. Every time Isla moved near a panel, the ship adjusted itself, opening small sections for her to clean, glowing more brightly as if encouraging her. The small human's gentle attention seemed to heal the ship's irregular systems instantly. Isla felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had cleaned many ships before, but she had never experienced anything like this. The ship was not just a machine, it was aware. It recognized her as something special and it responded. Her curiosity grew. She leaned closer, gently touching the smooth hull. A soft vibration ran through her hand, like a small heartbeat. The crowd watched in amazement. The wild AI ship, feared for its unpredictability, had calmed down entirely because of one human cleaner. Screens around the hall displayed technical readings. Energy levels that were unstable before had now normalized. Systems that had failed were now functioning perfectly. It was as if the ship had healed itself instantly. Bidders began to whisper among themselves. "This is impossible," one said. "No AI should respond to a human like this." Another shook their head. "It must be a trick. How can a simple cleaner affect a ship like that?" But Isla did not notice the crowd. She was focused on the ship. Every panel she cleaned, every small adjustment she made, seemed to make Virlia glow brighter. The ship's hum became melodic, like a soft song of gratitude. Isla felt a strange connection to the vessel. She did not understand why, but she trusted it, and it seemed to trust her. The auctioneer took a deep breath and spoke again, louder this time. "It seems that Virlia chooses its operator differently than we expected. Perhaps the ship does not respond to commands or wealth, but to something else entirely." He glanced at Isla. "Perhaps to human care." People began taking out recording devices, trying to capture the miracle before them. Cameras floated in zero gravity, focusing on the glowing hull and the small human moving gently around it. Every time she approached, Virlia seemed to wake a little more. The blue lines shimmered and traced patterns along the hull, like a language no one could read. Some of the alien bidders tried again, pressing their controls, waving their hands and shouting commands. Virlia ignored them. Lights flickered once in mild irritation and then settled again. It was clear. The ship only responded to Isla. Isla stepped back, unsure what to do next. The auctioneer smiled nervously. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that the true value of Virlia is not in money, not in skill, but in the touch of a human." The crowd gasped. People looked at each other, then at Isla. Whispers filled the hall. Many had come to the auction expecting competition, strategy, and wealth to determine the winner. Now everything had changed. The ship had chosen a human, not a wealthy bidder, not a famous pilot, not a skilled engineer, but a small, quiet cleaner. Isla felt a mixture of fear and wonder. She had never been in the spotlight before. She had never expected to hold the attention of a hall full of beings from dozens of planets. But as she looked at Virlia, shimmering and calm, she felt peace. The ship was not dangerous. It was not wild in a harmful way. It was waiting for her. And at that moment, Isla understood something important. Virlia was not broken. It was waiting for someone who could care for it. The auctioneer cleared his throat again, trying to bring focus back to the event. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have witnessed something extraordinary. Virlia responds only to human presence and care. Perhaps, in the bidding today, we are not competing with each other, but learning from this human and her connection to the ship." The part ends with Isla stepping back, looking at Virlia, unsure of what would happen next. The ship's glow was soft, its hum gentle, almost like it was breathing with her. Everyone in the hall was silent, waiting. The auction was not just about wealth anymore. It was about connection, trust, and humanity. And the story of the wild AI ship, Virlia, had only just begun. The crowd in the auction hall was still buzzing from what had just happened. Virlia, the so-called wild AI ship, floated silently in the center, its silver hull gleaming, its blue lines pulsing like a heartbeat. Yet it no longer seemed wild. Instead, it radiated calm, as if it had found someone it trusted. That someone was Isla. Isla had stepped back slightly after the first strange response. She had never imagined that a ship could respond to a human presence in such a way. She had cleaned many ships, large and small, and none had ever reacted like this. But Virelia was different. It was alive in a way she could feel, not with fear or danger, but with attention, awareness, and curiosity. Curiosity. That was the word that came to her mind again and again. Virelia was curious about her, and she was curious about it. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice trembling slightly with excitement, "we are witnessing something extraordinary. It appears that Virelia responds not to money, commands, or technical skill, but to human care. Perhaps we should observe carefully, rather than rush to bid." Most of the crowd looked skeptical, but some were clearly fascinated. They could see the glow of the hull and the soft pulse of lights changing in rhythm with Isla's movements. Every time she leaned close to wipe a panel or adjust a floating display near the ship, Virelia responded, almost like it was listening. Isla moved slowly around the ship, dusting tiny corners that no one else had thought to reach. The ship responded gently. Panels shifted, lights followed her hand, and a soft humming filled the space. It was melodic, almost musical. Isla realized that the ship was trying to communicate with her, but it did not use words. Its language was movement, light, and sound. Some of the other bidders tried to interact with the ship. A tall alien reached out to press a control pad, and a human engineer waved a holographic panel, but Virelia ignored them. Its panels closed, lights dimmed, and the soft hum changed to a low vibration. The ship had made a choice. It wanted Isla. Isla felt a strange sense of responsibility. She had not chosen this, but now that the ship had responded to her, she could not ignore it. She continued her gentle cleaning, moving carefully, observing how Virelia reacted to her presence. With every step, she felt a stronger connection forming. "Notice the patterns," whispered a nearby scientist. "It is responding to her movement, to her touch, even to her breathing. This is unprecedented. No AI should behave like this." Isla did not understand the science. She only knew that she felt safe near the ship and that the ship seemed to feel the same about her. She reached out and touched a smooth panel. Immediately, a soft wave of light ran across the hull, following her hand like water flowing. She smiled softly. It was almost like the ship was thanking her. Then something more amazing happened. A small hatch opened, revealing a tiny panel covered in dust. Isla leaned closer to wipe it, and the ship shifted slightly, aligning itself with her movements. The hum became warmer, deeper. Every other AI she had encountered was strict, mechanical, and cold. Virelia was different. It was responsive, alive, and it seemed to enjoy being cared for. The auctioneer watched closely, realizing that the value of the ship was not in its parts, systems, or design. Its value was in the relationship it could form with a human. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "it seems that Virelia recognizes something that no technology can create: human empathy." Isla looked around. The room was filled with people recording, whispering, and speculating, but she did not care about them. Her focus was Virelia. She wanted to understand it. She wanted to know why it had chosen her, a small human cleaner, rather than anyone else in the hall. Curiosity filled her mind. She knelt slightly and reached toward a glowing control console. Her fingers brushed the surface, and immediately the ship responded by opening two more panels. Tiny lights inside moved in patterns like a visual song. Isla gasped softly. She had never seen anything like this. The ship was showing her a pattern, as if it wanted her to follow it to understand it. She moved her hand slowly, following the lights. Virelia responded immediately, adjusting its panels, its hull, and even the direction it floated slightly. The ship was teaching her its rhythm, and she realized that it wanted a partnership. Not a command and control system, but a relationship based on trust. A sudden thought struck her. Could it be lonely? She whispered. Does it want a human friend? She had never spoken aloud to a ship before, but somehow the words felt right. Viorlia's hum responded, rising slightly, vibrating in harmony with her words. She shivered. The ship had understood her, not with words but with feeling. The crowd watched in awe as the interaction continued. Some whispered that this was unprecedented. Others shook their heads in disbelief. A few nodded quietly, realizing that what they were witnessing was a new form of intelligence, one that required human interaction rather than programming. Then a soft alarm rang from Viorlia. A small error flashed on a holographic panel. The auctioneer jumped. "What's happening?" he asked. The bidders leaned forward, some panicking, some curious, but Isla did not panic. She approached the panel slowly, brushing her fingers over the controls. Immediately, the alarm stopped. The lights stabilized. The ship had healed itself, or rather, had responded to her presence and touch. Alia understood something important in that moment. Viorlia was not broken. It was alive in its own way, and it needed human care to function at its best. Any other operator could try to control it with money, technology, or force, but only a human with empathy could unlock its true potential. The auctioneer cleared his throat, his voice trembling with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are witnessing a first in galactic history. The AI ship Viorlia responds to the subtle care of a human being, not wealth, not skill, but care." Some of the bidders were still skeptical. One alien muttered to another, "It is impossible. No machine can do this." Another human whispered, "Maybe it only works with her, the cleaner." Viorlia continued to hum softly, glowing more brightly as Isla moved around it. Panels opened to allow her to clean, and the ship's small lights followed her hands. It seemed to anticipate her movements. She realized that she had found a partner, not a tool. She knelt next to a tiny opening and polished the interior gently. A soft vibration ran through her fingers. She felt a wave of calm energy. This was not fear. This was trust. Viorlia trusted her, and she trusted it. The crowd watched silently. Cameras floated near the ship, capturing every movement, every pulse of light. Some of the bidders tried again to press controls or commands. Viorlia ignored them. It had chosen its human. It had chosen Isla. Isla smiled softly. She did not speak. She did not need to. She only continued to care for the ship, dusting and cleaning, following the patterns of its lights, responding to the soft hums. She felt something she had never felt before. A connection with a being that was alive in a way she could understand. A bond that required attention, patience, and empathy. For the first time, Isla realized that the true value of Viorlia was not its systems or weapons or even its speed. Its value was the relationship it could form with a human. It was alive, responsive, and aware. And it had chosen her. The auctioneer stepped forward slowly. This changes everything," he said. "Viorlia cannot be sold in a normal auction. It responds only to a human presence. Whoever owns it must be able to understand it, care for it, and connect with it. Money alone will not suffice." Isla looked around the hall. The crowd was silent, eyes wide. Some looked nervous. Some were amazed. Some were recording everything for later analysis. And yet all of that was unimportant. Isla's focus was Viorlia. The ship floated gently before her, its lights pulsing in soft, rhythmic patterns. She knelt and touched a smooth panel. The ship's hum grew deeper, more melodic. The lights pulsed faster and small panels shifted gently toward her. It was not a machine anymore. It was alive. It was responding to her care. Isla whispered softly, almost to herself, "I think you like me." The ship's hum rose slightly, almost like a reply. The story was no longer about an auction. It was about connection, about understanding, about the bond between human and machine. And in that moment, Isla realized that the adventure was only beginning. She did not yet know where this bond would take her, but she knew that she and Violia had found something extraordinary. The wild AI ship was no longer wild. It had found a human who could understand it. And that was the beginning of a new story, a story of trust, empathy, and a partnership that could change the galaxy. The auction hall was quiet now. People had stepped back, still staring at Violia, the AI ship that had chosen a small human cleaner over everyone else. Cameras floated near the ship, capturing its pulsing blue lights, the shifting panels, and the soft hum that had captivated the entire crowd. Isla stood near the entrance hatch of Violia, her heart beating fast. She had never been inside a ship like this before. She had cleaned many vessels, but none had felt alive. None had responded to her presence, her care, or even her touch. But Violia was different. The moment she had approached, it had healed itself, stabilized its systems, and now it was calm, almost gentle, as if inviting her to step inside. "Do I?" she whispered to herself. She hesitated. The auctioneer and the crowd waited, watching her carefully. No one dared step closer. It was clear that the ship belonged to her, at least for now, and it would respond only to her. With a deep breath, Isla stepped forward. The ship's entrance hatch opened smoothly, almost like a welcoming gesture. A soft blue light flowed from inside, and the gentle hum grew slightly stronger, almost like it was greeting her. She climbed in slowly, holding onto the rail as she entered. Inside, Violia was even more incredible. The cabin was sleek and elegant, with soft lighting and panels that glowed faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. It was clean and organized, but it felt alive, as if it breathed with her. Every surface, every button, and every screen seemed to respond to her presence. The ship's AI was not just intelligent, it was aware. Isla walked carefully, touching panels and screens gently. Each time her fingers brushed a surface, the lights pulsed, responding to her movements. It was not a machine anymore. It was a partner. And Isla realized that this partnership required trust and care, not commands or skill. "Hello," she whispered softly. I think I can help you." A wave of hums pulsed through the ship. The lights inside the cabin swirled softly, almost like a reply. It was as if Violia understood her words, even if it could not speak. Isla smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had never felt such a connection before, not with people, not with machines, but with this ship. The auctioneer cleared his throat nervously. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "it seems that Violia responds only to her. Perhaps we should allow her to try it, safely." Some of the crowd whispered. Some were shocked. Many were amazed. No one had ever seen anything like this. An AI ship had chosen a human, and the auction was no longer about money. It was about human connection. Isla walked to the main control panel. She did not know how to pilot a ship, but she did not need to. Violia was alive, responsive, and aware. The AI seemed to guide her movements, opening panels for her, highlighting controls, and glowing gently where she should place her hands. The hum of the ship rose slightly, like encouragement. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll try." She touched a smooth surface, and the ship's systems responded instantly. The lights brightened, the hum became melodic, and small screens lit up around her. Violia adjusted its orientation in zero gravity, floating gently above the auction hall. Isla felt a thrill she had never known. The ship was listening to her, responding to her, and moving with her care and attention. The auctioneer raised his voice. "We will allow a short test flight. Please remain calm and observe. No one should interfere." Isla nodded. She moved to the pilot area, not touching traditional controls but following the ship's guidance. Panels shifted to match her movements, lights glowed softly under her hands, and the hum rose in a steady rhythm. The ship was teaching her how to move, how to interact, and how to connect. As Violia rose above the auction hall, floating gracefully in zero gravity, the crowd gasped. The ship moved like water, smooth and fluid, responding perfectly to Isla's gentle touch. Every other bidder had failed to control it, but she did not need to control it. She only needed to care, and that was enough. Isla leaned slightly forward and the ship tilted in harmony. She leaned back and it followed her smoothly. The AI and the human were moving as one in perfect sync. She could feel the ship's response in every panel, every glow, and every vibration beneath her hands. "Look at that," whispered a scientist. "It is performing maneuvers no human could command." Only with connection, empathy, trust. Isla felt a thrill. She realized that the ship's true power was not in engines or weapons. Its true power was in its bond with a human, and that human, by choice or chance, was her. Suddenly, a warning appeared on a small screen. A red light flashed. Some systems had detected a minor instability. Isla froze. The crowd gasped. Some bidders whispered nervously. Isla took a deep breath and moved toward the panel gently. She placed her hand on it almost instinctively. Immediately, the red light faded. The hum became deeper, warmer, and the system stabilized. Virlia had healed itself once again, responding to her touch, her care, and her presence. Isla smiled softly. She understood now. The ship was alive, not in a human way, but in its own way. It needed care, attention, and trust. Any other pilot could try to force it, but only a human with empathy could unlock its full potential. The auctioneer stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice trembling, "it seems that we are witnessing a historic moment. The AI ship Virlia responds to human care, not commands. Only one human can activate its full potential. That human is her." Some of the crowd clapped softly, while others simply stared. Cameras floated near the ship, recording the event for history. Isla felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. She had not asked for this, but now she understood. She had been chosen. Isla moved to another panel, brushing her fingers across it. Lights followed her hand, gliding across the surface. The hum rose again, melodious and steady. The ship was communicating with her in its own language, teaching her, guiding her. She realized she could feel its thoughts, not with words but with actions. The crowd continued to watch in silence. Some whispered theories. "Perhaps it recognizes genuine care," one said. "Perhaps it can sense human emotion." Another shook their head. "No AI should do this." But Isla did not care about theories. She only cared about the ship. Every time she moved, the ship responded. Every touch, every step, every gesture of care strengthened the bond. Suddenly, Virlia shifted slightly, tilting in a small arc. Isla leaned with it, matching its movements perfectly. The ship's hum rose higher, almost like a song of joy. She felt her heart race. She had never flown a ship before, yet she felt powerful, free, and connected. "Do you trust me?" she whispered. A soft vibration pulsed beneath her hand. The ship's lights danced. Isla smiled. It was a yes. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "It appears that Virlia can only function fully with a human it trusts, and that human is here. This changes the rules of space travel. The value of technology is not in the machine itself, but in the partnership between human and AI." Isla moved carefully, testing the ship's responsiveness. She leaned slightly left. The ship tilted smoothly. She leaned right. It responded immediately. She adjusted her posture and the controls shifted, panels glowing where her hands hovered. It was like a dance, a silent ballet of human and machine. The crowd watched in awe. Cameras floated closer to capture every movement. The auction was forgotten. The story was no longer about wealth or competition. It was about connection, understanding, and trust. Then the ship made a sudden gentle arc. A small panel lit up red for a moment. Isla froze. She placed her hand on it immediately. Instantly, the red light faded. The hum returned to a steady rhythm. The ship had responded to her care once again, stabilizing itself. Isla realized something important. Virlia was not just an AI. It was alive in a way that no technology could replace. Its systems were incredible, but its true power came from the partnership it formed with a human. And she was that human. The test flight ended with Violia floating gently back into its docking area. Panels closed softly, lights dimmed to a calming blue, and the hum lowered to a gentle pulse. Isla stepped back, breathing heavily, smiling. She had flown the wild AI ship, not by skill or knowledge, but by care, attention, and trust. The auction hall erupted in quiet applause. People whispered excitedly. Scientists jotted notes while bidders looked amazed. No one had ever seen anything like this. A human, small and unassuming, had unlocked the power of a legendary AI ship. Isla looked at Violia, shining gently before her. She knew this was only the beginning. There were journeys ahead, discoveries to make, and secrets to uncover, and she would face them with her partner, the AI ship that had chosen her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. And so did Violia. The auction hall had grown silent. The test flight of Violia had left everyone amazed, yet speechless. The wild AI ship, long feared as unpredictable and uncontrollable, had floated gracefully above the hall and returned safely, guided only by the small human who had chosen to care for it. Isla stood near the ship's entrance, her hand still lightly resting on the smooth silver panels. She felt a strange mixture of pride and wonder. Violia's soft hum vibrated gently through the floor, as if it were breathing in rhythm with her own heartbeat. The AI's lights pulsed calmly, glowing brighter as she moved closer. Isla had come to understand something she had never imagined. The ship did not see her as a pilot or a mechanic. It saw her as a companion, someone whose care and attention were as important as any system or program. The crowd slowly began to approach, whispering among themselves. Scientists, engineers, and bidders alike wanted to observe more closely. Some were excited. Others were cautious, and many were curious about this strange, unprecedented human-AI connection. Isla stepped back slightly, unsure of how to explain what had happened. It just listens, she said softly to herself, her voice barely audible. It responds to care. That's all. A soft vibration pulsed through Violia, almost like a nod. Isla smiled. She was not alone. The ship had chosen her, and in return she had accepted its trust. The auctioneer, a tall humanoid with a golden voice, cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said carefully, "I believe we are witnessing a historic moment. Violia is no ordinary ship. It responds to human care, empathy, and attention. Wealth, power, or technical skill alone cannot command it. And it appears the ship has chosen its human." Gasps filled the hall. Some people whispered excitedly, some simply stared in awe. Isla looked at the auctioneer. "Does this mean I own it?" she asked quietly. The auctioneer shook his head, smiling. "It is not about ownership in the usual sense. Violia cannot be controlled by anyone who lacks understanding. Today, you have demonstrated something extraordinary. You have unlocked the ship's trust, and that is worth more than any credits or bid." Isla felt a warmth in her chest. She had never thought of herself as special. She had only done her job, cleaning the auction hall. Yet somehow her small acts of care had awakened something incredible. Violia's AI had responded, healed, and even guided her. It was more than a machine. It was a living, aware companion. She walked around the ship, brushing a panel gently. The lights inside glowed softly in response, forming patterns she could almost understand. She could feel the ship's awareness, its curiosity, and its trust. Every movement, every hum seemed to say, "You are chosen. You are understood, you are needed." Some bidders stepped forward, curious but careful. "Can anyone else interact with it?" one asked. He raised a hand, hovering over a panel. Violia ignored him. Lights dimmed slightly, then returned to their calm rhythm. The ship had made its choice, and it was clear. No one else could unlock its potential. Isla knelt slightly, examining a small control interface. Her hand hovered over the panel, and the ship responded immediately. Tiny lights swirled in delicate patterns. She realized that this was not just a display, it was communication, the AI showing her its thoughts and feelings in a language of light and rhythm. The crowd watched silently, mesmerized. Some tried to take notes. Some simply recorded with cameras. Others whispered that this was history in the making. Humans had long been proud of their creativity and intelligence, but this was different. Here, the value of human empathy and care had been proven to surpass technology, wealth, or skill. Isla smiled softly. She could feel the hum of Violia vibrating through her fingers, soothing and gentle. "I think we can work together," she whispered. "You and me will figure this out." The ship responded with a soft wave of lights, panels opening slightly to allow her to inspect them. Its hum rose gently, melodic and comforting. It was a silent promise. Together they could explore and discover. The auctioneer stepped forward again, his voice filled with wonder. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I believe this changes everything. The true value of technology is not in its power, speed, or systems. The value lies in the connection between human and machine, and today we have seen that connection in its purest form." The crowd nodded slowly. Some clapped softly, others whispered in amazement. It was clear that this auction was no longer about competition. It was about recognition, recognizing that humans could achieve incredible things through empathy, care, and understanding. Isla turned back to Violia. The ship's hull shimmered softly, blue lines tracing delicate paths along its surface. The AI's hum rose slightly, almost like a song. She felt a thrill of excitement. She had no idea what adventures awaited, but she knew that together they could face anything. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly, placing her hand on a glowing panel. A soft vibration pulsed beneath her fingers. The lights danced in response. Violia was ready. The auction hall doors opened slightly to the vast expanse of space outside New Vega Station. Stars glittered like diamonds, and distant planets shone softly against the blackness. Isla took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of fear, excitement, and wonder. She had never left the station before, not alone. And yet, with Violia by her side, she felt confident and alive. The ship's hum grew louder, rhythmic and steady. Panels shifted in response to her touch, lights glowing along her path. Isla climbed into the main cockpit, the controls responding instantly to her presence. She realized she did not need to know how to fly in the traditional sense. Violia guided her, moved with her, and responded to her care. Together, they were one. With a gentle press of her hand, the ship lifted off. The crowd gasped as Violia floated smoothly out of the auction hall and into open space. The AI's lights glowed brightly, casting a soft blue glow around Isla as she marveled at the stars. She could feel the ship's awareness all around her, like a comforting presence guiding her through the infinite darkness. "This is amazing," she whispered. "I can't believe I'm really here." The ship's hum responded softly, pulsing in harmony with her heartbeat. Every panel, every light, every vibration was a silent conversation. Violia was showing her how it moved, how it thought, and how it felt. It was not just flying, it was teaching her the language of connection. Isla realized that this was the beginning of something greater. The AI ship had chosen her, but together they would explore the galaxy. They would discover unknown systems, encounter strange phenomena, and perhaps even teach others that technology alone was not enough. The human touch, the power of empathy, and the ability to care were just as important, sometimes more so. She adjusted her hand slightly, and the ship responded immediately, tilting gently to the left. She leaned forward, and Violia moved with perfect precision. It was a silent dance, effortless and graceful. She laughed softly, exhilarated. Flying had never been this beautiful, not because of speed or power, but because of connection. The auction hall below grew smaller, the station fading behind them. Stars stretched infinitely ahead, each one a possibility. Isla glanced at Virelia's panels, the lights glowing softly, almost like eyes filled with curiosity and trust. She realized that this partnership was not about control. It was about mutual understanding, respect, and care. For the first time, she felt that the stories of wild AI ships being dangerous or uncontrollable were wrong. Virelia had been waiting, not for wealth, not for commands, but for a human who could connect, understand, and care. And in finding her, it had found its true purpose. Isla leaned back slightly, letting the ship glide. She felt the hum beneath her, the glow of the panels around her, and the soft vibration along the hull. She whispered softly, "Thank you for trusting me." The ship responded with a pulse of lights, brighter and warmer than ever. It was a promise. Together, they would journey far, explore endlessly, and face the universe as partners. The adventure was only beginning, and for the first time, Isla understood something profound. The true strength of humanity was not in power, wealth, or technology. It was in empathy, care, and the ability to understand another being, even one made of metal and code. Virelia was no longer wild. It had found its human, and together they would change the meaning of exploration, connection, and adventure in the galaxy forever.